Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Horrorcast series. In the last episode, we discussed a really spine-chilling true horror story. The accounts were really horrifying, and in this episode, we're going to discuss another real-life horror story sent by the person himself. Once again, the accounts are really spine-chilling. Stay tuned until the end, and please subscribe to our channel. For privacy reasons, we will not reveal the true name and the identity of the places where these supernatural accounts happened. We have also rephrased some parts of the story to make them better for narration, but we have kept all the incidents real and intact. So let's get on with the story, as it's gonna be a really spine-chilling night. I never believed in supernatural. As a journalist, my world revolved around facts, evidences, and tangible truths. So when I was assigned to cover the supposed hauntings in a small secluded town, I approached the task with skepticism. Little did I know, this assignment would unravel my understanding of reality and plunge me into a nightmare I couldn't escape. It was a small, forgotten town nestled deep within the dense forest of the Pacific Northwest. The winding road seemed to lead nowhere. As I drove through the misty trees, an inexplicable sense of unease settled over me. The town itself was eerily quiet, its street lined with buildings and overgrown vegetation. It was as if time had abandoned this place. I checked into the only inn available, a creaky, antiquated establishment run by an elderly woman. We shall call her Mrs. Hensley. Her eyes seemed to peer into my very soul as she handed me the keys to the room. "Be careful at night," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The shadows here have a life of their own," she said. Dismissing her warnings as the ramblings of an old woman, I settled into my room and began reviewing my notes. The townsfolk spoke of a malevolent presence that lurked in the darkness, a shadowy figure that haunted their dreams and in some cases led to unexplainable disappearances. Determined to uncover the truth, I planned to interview several residents the following day. As night fell, the atmosphere in the inn grew oppressive. The walls seemed to close in and the air became thick with an unidentifiable stench, something akin to damp earth and decay. Laying in my bed, I struggled to sleep, my mind racing with anticipation and doubt. Around midnight, I was jolted awake by a faint whispering. The room was pitch black, save for the dim glow of the moon filtering through the curtains. Straining to listen, I realized the whispers were coming from the corner of the room. I fumbled for my flashlight and directed its beam towards the source. There, in the corner, stood a figure, a tall, gaunt silhouette, with hollow eyes that seemed to absorb the light. I was paralyzed with fear. The whispers grew louder, forming incoherent sentences that echoed my mind. Summoning every ounce of courage, I reached for my camera, but as soon as I blinked, the figure vanished, leaving behind an icy chill that permeated the room. Well, I provided myself explanations. Maybe it was because I was tired. Maybe it was because of this old building and the strange atmosphere here. I forgot about the night. The next morning, I ventured into the town square, eager to gather accounts from the locals. Many were reluctant to speak, their eyes darting nervously as they muttered excuses and hurried away. Eventually, I met an elderly man, let's call him Thomas, who agreed to share his experience. Thomas recounted how his daughter, Emily, has disappeared a year prior. She had been plagued by nightmares of a shadowy figure calling her into the forest. One night she walked into the woods and was never seen again. Tears welled in his eyes as he described the futile search effort and the lingering guilt that consumed him. Determined to uncover more, I visited the local library, a dusty repository of forgotten knowledge. Among the yellowed pages of old newspapers and journals, I discovered a pattern. Every decade, several townspeople would vanish without a trace. The disappearances were always preceded by sightings of shadowy figure and an overwhelming sense of dread that gripped the town. That evening, I decided to explore the forest where Emily and others had disappeared. Armed with my camera and a flashlight, I ventured into the woods as the sun dipped below the horizon. The trees loomed overhead, their twisted branches forming grotesque shapes against the darkening sky. As I delved deeper, the air grew colder, and an unnatural silence enveloped the surroundings. The usual sound of nocturnal creatures were absent, replaced by an oppressive stillness. Suddenly, my flashlight flickered and died, plunging me into the darkness. Panic surged through me as I fumbled to replace the batteries. Then I heard it, a low, guttural whisper that seemed to resonate from within the depths of the forest. The same incoherent murmurs that had haunted me in the inn now surrounded me, growing louder and more instant. A sense of impending doom washed over me as I realized I was not alone. The shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its form more defined yet impossibly void of light. It glided towards me, and as it did, memories that weren't my own flooded my mind. Visions of despair, anguish, and torment. I saw the faces of those who had vanished, their eyes hollow and pleading. The entity was a collector of souls, feeding off the misery of its victims. I turned to flee, but my legs felt like lead. The whispers intensified. Mustering every ounce of willpower, I forced myself to move, stumbling through the underbrush, branches clawing at my skin. The entity pursued me, its presence an unrelenting force pressing down on me. As I burst from the oppressive embrace of the forest into the open field, the moonlight bathed me in its cold glow, offering a fleeting sense of relief. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my heart pounded like a war drum against my ribs. The sinister whispers that had tormented me within the woods had faded, but an unsettling silence now enveloped the landscape. I forced myself to keep moving, stumbling towards the distant lights of the town. Each step felt like wading through molasses, my limbs heavy with exhaustion and fear. The events of the night replayed in my mind, the shadowy figure, the malevolent whispers, the overwhelming dread that had nearly consumed me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the darkness was still lurking just beyond the edge of the trees. Upon reaching the outskirts of the town, I collapsed onto the porch of the inn, my body trembling uncontrollably. Mrs. Hensley, the innkeeper, opened the door with a look of alarm. "Good heavens," she exclaimed, helping me to my feet. "What happened to you, child?" I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, and my voice came out as a hoarse whisper. "The forest, the shadow, it's real." Her eyes widened with a mix of fear and understanding. She guided me inside and sat me by the fire, wrapping a thick blanket around my shoulder. The warmth began to seep into my bones, but the chill of the encounter still clung to me. "I warned you," she said softly, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames. "The shadow in these towns are not merely tales to frighten children. They have plagued this town for generations." Desperation laced my voice as I asked, Is there any way to stop it? To break free from its grasp? She sighed deeply, the weight of years of sorrow evident in her demeanor. Some say confronting the darkness head-on, acknowledging its presence without fear, can weaken its hold. Others believe seeking the guidance of those who have survived its torment may offer insight. Determined not to let the shadow claim any more lives, I resolved to delve deeper into the town's history, to uncover any knowledge that could aid in confronting this malevolent force. The following days were spent poring over ancient texts, speaking with elders who whispered of rituals and protective charms, and piecing together fragments of the forgotten lore. One recurring theme emerged, a ritual involving light and personal artifacts to confront and banish the darkness. It was said that by illuminating the shadow's form and confronting it with one's own inner light, its power could be diminished. Armed with this knowledge and help from 2 other townfolk, I prepared for the confrontation. We gathered candles, a mirror, and a cherished locket belonging to Emily, the girl who had vanished. As night fell, we ventured once more into the heart of the forest, the weight of our purpose steadying my trembling hands. In a small clearing, we arranged the candles in a circle, placing the mirror and the locket at the center. Lighting each candle, we focused on the memories of those lost, their faces vivid in my mind's eye. The air grew thick and the temperature plummeted as the shadow materialized before us, its form more defined yet still a dark void. Summoning every ounce of courage, we held up the mirror, forcing the entity to confront its own reflection. The shadow recoiled, a guttural hiss emanating from its void-like visage. I clutched the locket tightly, channeling the love and light it represents, and stepped forward into the circle of candles. "You have no power here," I declared, my voice steady despite the terror clawing at my insides. "I see you for what you are, a manifestation of fear and despair. You will torment this town no longer," I claimed. The shadow writhed, its form contorting as if it is in agony. The candles' flames flared, casting a bright light that seemed to pierce the very essence of the darkness. With a final ear-splitting screech, the entity dissolved into the night, leaving behind an eerie silence. Exhausted but resolute, we made our way back to the town. The oppressive atmosphere that had long plagued the town seemed to have lifted. The air felt lighter, the shadow less menacing. The townspeople noticed the change, their weary faces slowly brightening with renewed hope. Though the shadow's immediate threat had been vanquished, I knew that the battle against darkness, both external and within, was ongoing. But for the first time, I believed that with courage, unity, and the unwavering light of the human spirit, even the deepest shadows could be overcome. So that was a really spine-chilling horror account. I admired the spirit and the courage of the person who really stepped forward to confront the darkness itself, to free others who had given hope and who had given up to the darkness. Finally, I would like to ask you to please subscribe to our channel and like the video and share it with your friends and family, and please leave comments down below, as they are a motivation for us to keep working hard to gather these real-life events and present them to you. Don't forget to watch other horror accounts on our channel, and please give us your feedback in the comments down below. With that, thank you very much for watching, and until next time.